All right, good day, class. Today we're going to be talking about the end of World War One, and it's basically about how the U.S. gets involved, some situations that happened, and ultimately the end of it. Um, Now, this I'm telling you right now, there's going to be a lot of notes. There's quite a bit, so be prepared for that. There's going to be several videos of this. Okay, so in order to get full credit, you're gonna have to watch all the videos and take some of the notes. Okay. Um, so without further ado, let us begin. All right. So here is your warm-up picture. All right. Now, first off, as always, analyze the picture. What do you see? Okay. Now, once you finish that part, what do you think this artist is trying to say? What's the message that they're trying to put out there? Okay. So look at it, analyze it, and then come to your conclusion. All right. Be sure you write down the stuff in full sentences. Okay. All right. So in order to understand why the United States joined World War One, we have to look at several things. And one of the first things we have to look at is Mexico, believe it or not. Because in April 1914, American soldiers were arrested in Tampico, Mexico. Now, the thing is, they were arrested, but then they were immediately released. But their commander, he wanted an apology from the Mexican government. And the Mexican government was like, no, we arrested them for a reason. We let them out. No harm, no foul. Um, and that didn't sit well with the commander and ultimately President Wilson. Now, Wilson used this opportunity to get rid of the Mexican president, Huerta. Now, once they got rid of him, the Mexican citizens, they were kind of upset. They kind of saw it as like, you're interfering in our business, you know. So they didn't like that very much. And so there was some bad blood, this is between Mexico and the United States. So mediation, like basically a meeting to try to settle something, occurred. And this new guy, Carranza, he was basically appointed. Now, the thing is, Carranza was known to the Americans because he had an army and he had weapons supplied to him by the US government. And basically, they agreed, you know what, this guy will be your new president. Now, the thing is, the people really didn't like Carranza all too much. And Carranza came in thinking he's the top guy, things like that. So the Mexican forces, they basically opposed him. And this caused some friction, between the US and Mexico again. Now, the thing is, the Mexican army, force, I should say, basically started conducting raids in the US. And because they kind of figured, hey, if we can get a reaction from Wilson and show that this guy Carranza can't, hold us back, then he'll take Carranza out, just like he did Huerta. Now, one of these people who came into the United States and did stuff was this guy named Pancho Villa. Now, if you look to the picture on the right, that's him. Okay. Now, Pancho Villa came into America, and one particular town called Columbus, New Mexico, he actually burned it, and some Americans were killed. So Wilson sent 6,000 troops into Mexico to get Villa. But the thing is, they never caught him. And they would continue to search for him in the deserts and the caves all around Mexico, well, the upper part of Mexico, trying to get him. But they never did. All right, so here's the thing. When World War One starts and Archduke Ferdinand is assassinated, Wilson basically declares that the United States will be neutral. And that basically means we will not take either side. But many Americans believed that we should take a side, one side or the other. Now, there were a lot of German Americans, about 8 million of them, who supported their homeland. You know, And then there was another 4.5 million Irish people who didn't like British people because of what they were doing with their country, and they basically wanted the US to join the Central Powers. However, the rest of America really felt a common bond with England, right? We got along with them. And then there was even some, people who treasured our relationship with France because you have to remember during the American Revolution, they helped us out. And now here they are in trouble. And it's like, well, they helped us out. Let's help them out, kind of type of thing, Um, and at this time too, propaganda posters were everywhere. Um, Now both sides used them. Okay, the Allies and the Central Powers. The German propaganda was aimed against Russians. They try to make the Russians seem bad, evil, cruel. That if you see them, they're going to come after you. They're going to come after your children, your family. They're going to destroy your life, type of stuff. Whereas the British propaganda was more skillful. They try to make you think. They try to use words very carefully. Now, the picture to your right is an example of a propaganda poster. Loose lips might sink ships. So, in other words, if you start talking about, oh, we have this new ship, if you work at a dock place, oh, we have a new ship and it does all this stuff and it's so great that that person you're talking to or somebody around may be a spy and they might hear the stuff and then sink the ship. So, your loose lips, because you're talking, you're blabbing, basically you lost that ship because of you talking too much. Now, here's the thing. There were stories about German U-boats, and German U-boats were basically submarines. They would be attacking ships, and stories started coming about that the Germans would use the bodies of the dead people for fertilizer and soap. Now, I know that sounds really just left field thinking. How can you use dead bodies for soap and use bodies for fertilizers, what you use for plants and things like that? That doesn't sound legit. And the thing is, it wasn't. But still, it made the people sway more towards helping the Allies than it did the Central Powers. All right, so here's the thing. America was actually loaning money to both sides, the Allies and the Central Powers. Now, the thing is, that kind of came to a halt for the Germans because the Treasury Department head man here in the United States, he was pro Britain. And because of that, he stopped the loans towards Germany, but kept the loans going to Britain and France, you know. And the thing is, that's basically putting all of our eggs in one basket. Because if Britain and France lost, our money would be gone forever because there's no way they could pay us back, you know. So that was really a risky move, to do. Now, in the North Sea, Britain actually started creating a blockade around Germany to stop supplies from coming in, weapons, food, whatever. And they, you know, things would be coming in. They'd stop the ships, inspect it, and if there was stuff being, useful going into Germany, they would take it. So if there was weapons, they take them. If there was food, they take it. You know, um, and so again, the word contraband is stuff smuggled from one place to another. Okay, so now the British are trying to stop food and weapons and items that Germans could use against them. All right, so now the Germans, they knew that the Allies depended really heavily on the US and other empires for food, equipment, and basically supplies that they can't make themselves. And the Germans had a plan. Basically, any ships that were coming through, sink them, because remember, food is really, really scarce in Britain and in France. So if we can, let's say, stop the food supply, that will starve the British, and then that would make them surrender. Now, February 1915, the German government basically announced they would attack any ship going near Britain, but without warning. They wouldn't let them know. They just, we're going to shoot at you, shoot a torpedo, and things like that. Um, whether they're military or civilian passenger liners, things like that, doesn't matter. If you're going towards Britain, you're going to get sunk. That's what Britain or Germany was saying. Now, on May 7th, 1915, a German U-boat sank the British passenger liner, the Lusitania. Now, nearly 1,200 people died, including 128 Americans. But here's the thing. The Germans said there was weapons in that ship. We know it. And then the Americans and British were like, no, no, there's no weapons. They just attacked these poor people just because they were gonna wanted to retaliate against any ships going towards Britain. We know now that there actually was weapons in the Lusitania, that the German people were actually right, that there was weapons, gunpowder, guns, ammunition, um, whatever material that could be used again as a weapon against the Germans. And the U.S. was like, no, no, and Britain was like, no, no. But we know now, yeah, there was. So the U.S. government actually kept that a secret from its citizens and from everyone else. They were secretly helping Britain, even though they said we're neutral, we're both sides. Really, they were already taking a side even then in 1915. Now, in March 1916, a German U-boat sank a French passenger liner called the Suez. Now, it injured several Americans. Now, the picture on top to your right, that is a artist's drawing of the Lusitania. The bottom picture, that's an actual photo of the Suez. All right, that's actually it right there, cut in half. Now, to avoid the Americans from basically siding with the Allies, the Germans were quick to be like, hey, you know what? This is all just a little mistake. So they gave a pledge, the Suez Pledge, which said that they would no longer attack passenger ships without warning. That's key. But again, things are going to change in a little bit. All right. So Wilson won the 1916 election by stating he was the peace candidate and how he didn't send troops overseas. So that's what he was basing his presidency on, and he won. But in January 1917, a German officer named Arthur Zimmermann called the German ambassador in Mexico to make an offer to the Mexican government. And the offer was this: if the US somehow joined the war against Germany, and then if Mexico allied themselves with Germany, then Germany would help Mexico take back some of that lost land that the US had. So states like New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, California, stuff like that. Those states that Mexico once had, Germany is promising them, if you help us out, then we'll help you out. Now, this telegram really ticks off a lot of Americans. And on February 1st, 1917, Germany returns to unrestricted submarine warfare. And now they're going after ships after ship after ship. Because they feel, the Americans are not going to do stuff. So we can do what we want. And so between February 3rd and March 21st, they sink 6 American merchant ships without warning. And again, remember they said, we won't do that anymore. But now, because they figured this telegram's out there, they can do what they want, nothing's going to stop them. And they're getting very confident.